to this body of water, swarmed with mosquitoes. I am paddling for the first time, not counting that camera problem. Stick around to the end of the video to see the camera problem. I'm paddling on one of the Great Lakes. This is Lake Ontario, and it is beautiful. Okay, when you finish your paddle, do your wrists hurt, or a wrist hurt, or elbow pain, or shoulder pain, or pain in your legs, or more commonly, numbness in your legs? Those are all problems I think we can fix. Let's talk about fixing paddle-related pain. Let's go. Okay, so as I mentioned, I am paddling on Lake Ontario, technically Henderson Bay, but attached to Lake Ontario. Lake Ontario is right over there. And it's gorgeous. I've never paddled on a Great Lake before. I got here yesterday and I'm kicking myself because I didn't shoot video of it, because I would insert it here. It was blowing like crazy. It was blowing at 20, gusting to 35. And it was the first day of our trip. And I was like, yeah, I don't need to go out there. And the thing that I want to talk about, I won't be able to talk about. I'd like to do this whole video on the water. Okay, let's do the disclaimer first. I am not a doctor, physical therapist, kinesiologist, occupational therapist, any of those things. If you've got pre-existing condition that is giving you pain, talk to those people. Don't talk to me. Don't listen to me. If you are, a lot of people that I meet are paddling with either bent shafts or Greenland paddles. There is nothing wrong with either of those things because it solved a pain issue. And I'm going to say that it's solving a pain issue that could have been alleviated by correcting your stroke. And so what I see frequently is people will say, oh, you know, every once in a while I get a little pain here, or every once in a while I get a little pain here, or my legs go numb. A paddle won't fix your legs going numb. Those are all paddle stroke issues that I think, as long as there isn't an underlying issue, we can probably fix. And I'm basing this on my experience. I'm also basing this on seeing video from paddlers who they send me video. I do stroke analysis, but I also occasionally get video from paddlers, mainly paddlers that I know, like instructors who are like, God, my elbow is hurting me for some reason. Can you look at this video and tell me if you think I'm doing something? Which is super flattering. I did this a little while ago with my friend Allie. I could see in the video that she was having some right elbow pain. The right elbow was coming way back, way more than the left. And I'm like, yeah, that's a big part of it. And then the other thing that I see is excess movement. So if you're gonna paddle for 4 hours, I do about 70 strokes a minute when I'm not talking to a camera. And you know, 4 hours times 70 strokes a minute is, I forget the math, like 12,000 strokes, 14,000 strokes. It's a lot of strokes. If you do anything that is not correct 14,000 times, it's gonna hurt. And so I see with new paddlers a lot of very odd wave patterns going on here. I've got waves in 2 directions. That's kind of weird. I see frequently paddlers who do excess movements. And that is a big thing that I focus on. I think it's one of the things I'm best at is eliminating excess movements in myself and in others. So for starters, let's work from the fingertips down to the toes and through, and we'll come up with some very common issues and some very common or very easy fixes. So the first is starting at the fingertips, is not really fingertips, but calluses or blisters. If you're getting calluses or blisters on your fingers, that is you are gripping the paddle too tightly. Something I've gotten good at is really loose grip. And I will also add that a loose grip sort of forces you to push the paddle as opposed to pulling the paddle. So loose grip will solve your callus blister problem without a doubt. The other thing that I see is wrist pain. And short of paddling with a feathered paddle, and I'll feather in a second just to show you another option, your wrist should not be moving, right? So if you watch me, it's like I don't have wrists. My arms are nice and straight. The connection between forearm and hand is almost non-existent. It's straight. There's almost no wrist motion. If I'm paddling feathered, when I paddle feathered, I paddle very feathered. That's a 60 degree. I'm still doing very little. If you watch my right wrist, that's where I'm controlling the paddle. And very little movement is going on there. It's like that. That's all that's needed for a 60 degree feather, right? I'm gonna stick with the feather for a little bit. Also, you'll see not a whole lot of elbow movement, right? So this is where we wanna be. Don't lose that paddle, Brett. This is where we wanna be with our hands coming across between chin and eyes, right? But very little paddle movement. And something that I do with new paddlers, if they're not getting the push, is I make them just lock their paddles, or just lock their elbows. If you can paddle with locked elbows, then you're rotating with push. So there I'm realizing when I'm blocking, I have to bend my wrist a little bit more to be feathered. But there, even I'm going so much faster than I was because I'm focusing on it. But yeah, so very, doesn't need to be that exaggerated. That's just to prove a point. Very little elbow movement. I want as little extraneous movement in joints as possible. And I see a lot of people going to bench shafts to solve these problems. And I think that it's correcting the stroke, which is what's solving the problem. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with bench shafts. There's nothing wrong with Greenland paddles. If you want to use those, use those. I think they're great. But if you've got an injury or if you've got an ailment or an inflammation, you can fix it without going to a bench shaft or a Greenland paddle. But if you want to go to a bench shaft or a Greenland paddle, go to a bench shaft or a Greenland paddle. I have no problem with either of those types of paddles. Okay, shoulder pain. And we should talk for a second about pain, right? Pain that is in one spot, localized pain that you can touch with one finger, that is more concerning to me than general ache. That is usually fatigue. And I generally see fatigue in paddlers' shoulders, honestly, when they're using a big, heavy paddle. Big, heavy paddles will wear out your arms. It adds up over time. Go to a lighter paddle or test out a lighter paddle and see how that works. I would be willing to bet that less work is going to be easier on your joints and make you a happier paddler. So that is a big one. Let's talk about lower back. This I've talked about a lot. If you have lower back pain or something like that that does not exist outside of the kayak, that is not because your seat is not supportive enough. That is because your core muscles are weak and you are straining. And so there you need to work on core strength. I do a bunch of things to work on core strength. V-sits and planking and Russian twists. All of those help me maintain core strength as well as paddling itself. It is not an invitation to go get yourself a bigger seat, a higher seat back. In general, the bigger the seat, the higher the seat back, the worse it is gonna be. Not a good idea. Don't do that. Okay, so that's fingers. Sidebar. The Insta360 Ace Pro that I use uses hand signals to turn on and off. So frequently when I go like, it turns the camera off, and then I've got to edit that out. And I will say it does it more frequently by accident than when I try to do it for real. I would not say it's 100% consistent. Okay, so we've done hands, wrists. I can't open my hand all the way or it triggers the camera. Elbows, we're minimizing movement. We also don't want to pull that elbow way back, as I think I mentioned, right? We don't want to do that. Arms should stay in the box. That's our goal, right? And so that's the paddler's box, which is in here. The box has four sides, one side here, one side here, one side here, one side here. That's the paddler's box. We want to keep that box nice and square. And then back pain is core strength. Fix your core strength. Okay, now let's talk about numbness in the butt or the legs. So this can be two issues. Issue number one, if you are like me and do not have a particularly meaty butt, I have no butt, it is easy to sit in such a way that you are compressing either a nerve or a blood vessel, probably more likely a blood vessel, which is decreasing blood flow somewhere downstream, which will give you numbness. I fortunately do not suffer from this, but a number of people that I've paddled with in the past do, and you can add a thin layer of padding, thin being the key word, to the seat bottom. We still want the boat to be able to move with us. We don't want it ultra padded, but that is a really good way to sort of allow that blood to flow. In general, your lower half does not have great circulation, and it gets worse the further away you get. So like, for instance, feet have pulses, but pedal pulses are really hard to find. So that is the first problem. The other thing that it could be is foot position or leg position. And so play with the combination of seat bottom and foot position, moving them forward and back, and see if that solves your problem. Frequently, a simple, like a half-inch adjustment in one of those things will fix the problem outright, and you can generally solve that problem. Also, a little bit of padding under feet, around ankles, things like that. Play with padding. And then a good test to know if it's you or like physically an issue that you're having or a boat issue is sit on the floor, like in front of your TV or whatever, in the same position you would be in your boat, and see if that problem arises when you're sitting on the floor. If it doesn't arise when you're sitting on the floor, it's a boat problem. If it does, it's a you problem. So you got to figure out what that is. And then I'm going to say maybe talk to a doctor about peripheral blood flow or something like that. But you can also still try the padding, a little bit of padding, and see if that makes a difference. Okay, so those are simple fixes to common problems in joints and hands. In general, minimize movement. I think that'll help everybody out. A loose grip, good core strength, that'll get you through most things. But you don't necessarily have to go out and get a new paddle. If this doesn't fix the problem, then maybe you do, or maybe you should consult the doctor. Reminder, I am not a doctor. I'm going to continue to enjoy paddling here on Lake Ontario for the day. I hope you're paddling somewhere nice and somewhere new as well. Summer is upon us, and there's great paddling opportunities everywhere. Get out there on the water. All right, I'll see you outside. So you want to be a kayaking YouTuber? Yeah. So I just got on the water. I'm ready to go. Everything's great. Bow camera, frozen, locked up. Back to land, figure out what the hell is going on. It's so much fun. It's so relaxing. I'll just throw a camera on my boat and go. If only life were that easy. Stop recording.